Hi guys, hope everyone's well. For quite a while now, I haven't really been saying too much on politics, or I haven't really been commenting on politics. I've had a lot going on in my personal life recently, and of course I've been sharing news, and I've always continued to do that. But as regards to Philippine politics or Philippine matters, I haven't really got that much involved. But of course, I have been reading the news. I've been keeping up to date with the latest happenings in the Philippines. Of course, I'm aware that President Duterte hasn't got that much long to go as his term of president, i.e. he has under 2 years. And of course, that will be a great shame, and it will be incredibly sad when President Duterte finishes his term as president of the Philippines. I think he's done an incredible job. I think he's still doing an incredible job in the country in terms of the way that he's dealt with the COVID pandemic, the way that he's really taken care of the Filipino people. I see President Duterte still as a father of the Philippines, a father who cares for his children very much, and a father who wants only the best for the Philippine people. But of course, he's not going to be president forever. And there is talk now about what happens after his term of office as to who's going to take over, who's going to be the next president of the Philippines. Is there even going to be a continuation with a presidential style of government? Me personally, I've said this many times, I'm not Filipino, so I don't have any influence. I'm also not able to vote in any kind of elections in the Philippines. And of course, but all I can say is my personal opinion. I live in the United Kingdom, and in the United Kingdom we have a parliamentary style of government where we have a prime minister, and of course we have our royal family almost as figureheads, but of course they're still very much involved in the country. But what I find quite interesting, and I think what's quite relevant, is that every week during a parliamentary session we have a prime minister's question time, and this means the democratically elected party and their representative, i.e. the prime minister who's been voted for by members of that political party, takes the stage, if you like, and people are able to ask him questions on a weekly basis. They don't just have a press conference or anyone speaking on his behalf. The prime minister addresses the country every week, and members of parliament get the chance to ask questions and get the chance to question as to what he's doing. And I think this is very, very good. I think there's been lots of corruption in the past in the Philippines, and I think people want a better future. People want to move away from corruption, and I know that President Duterte's done a great deal of work to try and deal with that and to try and combat that. But I do really think for the Philippines to move forward, I really do think that a move to federalism and a parliamentary style of federalism would be very, very helpful for the country. I really think that if you had these MPs that were elected on a local level, what would basically happen was that when they were elected into parliament, if they were doing anything wrong, or if people weren't happy with what they're doing, they could be barred, or they could be voted out, or they could be disciplined in some way. And then, of course, you've got this prime minister who's the leader of the country. And I do like that style. And I really do think that the Philippines should probably move towards that style eventually. I know there are moves towards federalism in the country, and I think that's a good thing. I think, we've had a fantastic president, as in President Duterte, but we really don't know what's going to happen after. We really don't know what the future's going to hold. So let's see. I like to say publicly that although I'm not Filipino, I am a supporter of a move to federalism. I do believe that's the best way forward. And I do also agree that people need more education. People need to understand the system. What I found difficult for a long time is, of course, in the presidential style of elections, you've got this whole party list system. Now, I haven't voted myself personally, but I've looked at some of these election papers. And with this party list system, you have at least 60 names or whatever it is, 100 names of different parties, all with great catchphrases and everything else, like the teachers' party or the pro this party or the pro that party. And nobody really knows exactly what they are unless they have been thoroughly educated into what these parties represent. But I do feel you might have a catchy name, if you like, and people might vote that particular party or party list member based on that catchy name, but you really don't know what they stand for. There's a lot of party list organizations, and you really don't know exactly what their politics are or what they stand for. And I think the system is a little bit complicated at the moment in that you have, whatever it is, 60 different choices. And I think that's a complicated system that many people don't understand. And I think maybe, I'm not saying the electorate don't understand who to vote for. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think if you've got a list of 60 different groups or political parties, all with very similar sounding names, who's to say that somebody's not going to vote for the wrong party, or somebody's going to vote for a particular political group because of their name, and they may not turn out to be what the public thought they were going to be. And I think the system that we have in the UK, i.e. federal parliamentary, in that you have these 3 or 4, 5, 6 main political parties, and people just vote for the party who they think that can do the best job, and they vote for a local MP. Ben, you say it's a bit patronising. Of course, it's not meant to be patronising. My point is the party list system, where you have 60 different groups, if you like, all with similar sounding names, can be a little bit confusing for people. I'm just saying that I don't believe that a presidential system will work forever in the Philippines. I believe a parliamentary system is a better system. People are more held to account, and I believe that's the way that the Philippines should go towards. As I said, I'm a foreigner. I'm not Filipino, but I believe I have the best interests of heart of the Filipino people, and I think that's just the way forward. Of course, it's not meant to be patronising at all, and of course, I respect the electoral process in the Philippines very much. And I respect people's choices, but I can say there's maybe some parties who maybe they have a name and people support them, and underneath, they may have communist intentions. We really don't know. I'm not saying that with all party list groups, but that has happened in the past. Somebody sees a name, they tick that name, and for all they know, they voted in somebody who's not really going to be very helpful. So I think that maybe system may be open to abuse, and I think maybe in the future, I think a parliamentary system would work very well in the Philippines, because it means that politicians are held accountable, and as I said, on a weekly basis, somebody sits there and answers questions about exactly what's happening in the country, and I think that's the way the Philippines should move towards. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I agree with what you say. Not patronising at all. Malcolm is totally spot on what he describes the Philippines as a fucked up system. He understands it because he's spoken with a lot of Filipinos like myself who are thoroughly disgusted with the system we have. I think that's right. I think we do need a new style of government, a new style of accountability, and I think what we really need, or what the Philippines really needs, is a foreign direct investment. And I think basically the outside world, if you like, or foreign governments and foreign businesses need to be able to trust the Philippines and need to know that the Philippines is accountable. And I think having a parliamentary system will help. Of course, I have every confidence in President Duterte and everything that he's doing. But of course, sadly, he can't stay forever as president. and eventually he's going to have to step down. And, I'm not sure what's going to happen after that. Ben Wilson said Orion, his main concern was that people will get confused by the amount of parties and assumes they haven't looked up what they stand for. That is patronising. No, that's not my point at all, Ben. Unless you've looked at the party list system, which I have, and unless you've looked at the voting paper, there are a lot of parties with very, very similar names and very, very similar intentions, but people don't really know who is behind that. When you vote a party list, you don't exactly know. You may know, but, we've had situations in the past where people have voted a party list and, people have gone on within that party with bad intentions or maybe communist or whatsoever. And that's the problem. When you've got 60 of them, what I'm saying is that, yes, people will research, but there are many occasions where people might vote a particular party in the Philippines because they get given rice or they say something that's wonderful, but you really don't know. The problem is you vote them into power for 6 years and you really don't know what their real intentions are. And my point is this: it's a complicated system. I know this personally because I know people who have voted and they've gone down a random list, and if they see somebody from a party list who calls themselves pro-teachers or pro-Filipinos or pro-youth, they will vote for that party randomly. Maybe they don't live in the Philippines anymore. Maybe they live abroad, but they've got to pick 5 different choices. So they randomly tick boxes. I'm not saying that everyone does that. I'm saying the system needs to be, I think the system needs to be less complicated for the voters of the Philippines. And I think also the way that the parliamentary system works is that it is very accountable, i.e. you have a weekly question time, the Prime Minister's held to account, and I think that's a better system, and I strongly support that. I think that's really the way forward. And I also think this whole thing about this 60-40, i.e. if you set up a Filipino partner, if you like, I think that needs to change. I think the only way of getting improvements in the country, the only way of making the Philippines more accessible to foreign investment is if you drop these requirements. And I think that really needs to happen, because I think then the Philippines will be a more investable proposition. A lot of businesses won't go to the Philippines because they look at other countries and their system. And I think that taxes need to be lowered. I think there needs to be a lot of improvements. But I think the Philippines is definitely going in the right direction. And there are changes, but I really do think that constitutional reform is really necessary. So anyway, well, that's all I'm going to say on the matter. Thanks so much for watching. You guys do exactly what you feel that you need to do. Ben, Malcolm was totally spot on. This is precisely what we Filipinos are disgusted about. There are way too many of these micro parties in this stupid party list system that was created, and no one knows what they all stand for. That's why Malcolm, I said, is spot on what he said. Nothing patronizing, because he was reporting on what we Filipinos complain about. Yeah, that's exactly right. I agree with you, Orion. I thank you for your support. There needs to be a better system. The Philippines hopefully is moving towards that system, and I do agree with federalism completely, and that completely has my support. As I said, I'm not a Filipino voter, but again, I do believe the Philippines is moving in the right direction, and I'm pleased to see the recent activities that are happening in the Philippines. Thanks for watching, guys.